Okay, now we're entering part two on this. We just got through Christmas and everything and the astrotheology that goes along with the sun during that time and correlating it to Jesus. But then, of course, there's also the spring situation. This is where, well, this is the wrong depiction of it here, but it gives you an idea where we were having shorter and shorter days all the way through fall into winter to its lowest point, which we just talked about at December 21st, and then 3 days later the sun starts rising again. In our appearance in the northern hemisphere, or somebody in the deep southern hemisphere, if you're really on the equator, it really just wobbles on you and you don't go through any season. So that's why I know one of many reasons that those people never had any theology that goes along with this or anything, but also they never were connected to these people, whereas it looks like they roamed pretty far and went to every other length of the known earth at the time. In fact, looks like farther than what we want to believe in a modern day, but that's for other videos. But equinox means equal night, but it also means equal day. And so this is the point in spring whenever the sun, who had shorter and shorter days, starts to get longer and longer days after December 25th, and it gets all the way to the point that it reaches the point where the sun is now up for a little bit longer than the darkness is. This is where the light overtakes darkness, and this is in your Bible in a few different places, and people don't realize they're just talking about spring. The whole little thing that they just talked about was actually like seasons and stuff. If they started it at New Year's Day, you would make sense of it in modern day, but they don't start it there, so you don't even have a reference point to go off of, but that symbology is still there, let's just say. In Zeitgeist here, they say that the sun becomes longer or whatever, but no, it's just where it beats the amount of night. And then it gets longer and longer till the longest day of the year in midsummer. And then here starts the fall of man. And also that man in the sky there that we talked about here recently and showing you Jesus and all these guys. Well, at that time of year, whenever they came up with this especially, he was kind of going over and did his little dive, and then he's falling into the earth. But I don't want to go way off on too many tangents. Hell, I already have. And I'm going to continue, so let's just continue. So that's the equinox, and it keeps getting longer and longer through the summer. And then, of course, this is what makes all the plants regrow and stuff. Now, this is if they're annual plants. That's something that will just pop back up. Otherwise, you have to get the seeds from it and then keep the seeds and then put the seeds back out. And you don't want to really do it during the frost and have them just freeze, especially if you had them inside where it's warm and then you freeze them real quick. Something below the earth, it doesn't happen too bad, but a lot of things will die off from that, so it's more productive way far to collect the seeds. And people did that a long time ago. That's one of the reasons for that handbag situation, but let's just continue here. So a lot of people have looked at sacred paintings and said, oh, well, Da Vinci knew this because this, that, and the other, and here they go, and that one's a woman, and this one, that, and the other. And he goes, yeah, well, back then it was looked at more like that. It's amazing whenever you watch theologians, guys that are steeped in this, that go up and make dissertations and stuff, which I've watched hundreds, thousands of actually, and they talk about these things because you can tell in certain periods of time they had a total different ideal going on. It kept changing and changing and changing. They don't mention that the back windows are a symbol for Orion, and there's a symbol above that too, either that's mushed into the wall, that's kind of just hidden in the shadows back there, but how much did that man know? Because we've shown how Orion connects to Jesus. And in fact, we show how that makes sense whenever they were real insistent that Jesus and the Father were this one and the same. Because, see, the story goes around and he does this thing and ends up in that same chair. So it's the same guy. It's the same guy. It's the same thing. Well, he's the Son of God. And everything started from sun worship. 12 constellations, 12 disciples. Here's something that shows that Jesus was in zodiac, and you can find things from right whenever he's first brought in all the way up through. In fact, one of the apologetic things I saw not too long ago was a man trying to show a depiction like this that was dated to before the time of Christ by 150 years, and they were trying to say, for up to 150 years, but definitely before Christ. And they were actually looking at an idea of Sol Invictus and the zodiac around him. And it was just like a backfire. Well, this one right here is from a depiction on a plate that is from the 11th century AD, showing you that he's the sun in the middle and the zodiac's going around. People don't get this concept, and very few people have found any of the ideas that I showed you recently, where the Sumerians have this zodiac that's a little different, and therefore the little tail, here it is right here, and then this river symbolically supposed to be the Tigris and Euphrates, and down here, and there's the Abyss, and there's Aquarius, and that's Enki, and this is that, and it's another, but in another way, that's Neptune. And there's the Kraken right there, and all this, that, and the other. And here's Perseus, and he's going to save her from the Kraken. And here's Pegasus, so he uses her. And there's Medusa's head in his hand. In fact, here's this, here's that. Oh, here's the 12 labors of Hercules. The sun's always at the center of that for us. So I've showed in a lot of ways that most of this comes from a Sumerian way, and you can think that in two different ways. I watched an apologetic say something, and it almost sounded half-half convincing if you don't know a lot of other things. But the fact that we still have a 12-hour day and 360 degrees in a circle, and all these things are mathematical equations came out by the Sumerians, and it apparently was before they were founded, are the point that we want to give them for having writing. Let's put it that way. And their pyramids are all lined up too. Just like ones in Egypt they talk about and stuff. Sure, it wasn't as big as that. It wasn't made out of stone, but cooked bricks, which we still use today. It's the more modern things. Look at Three Little Pigs. It works that way. Bricks. We made stone. Well, if you made a house out of stone, it would really last a lot longer. There's castles that the wood part's gone, but the rest of it's still there, isn't it? But how much astrotheology is taken into this? Well, just another form of this is the zodiac of 12, but that works off a Sumerian calculation situation of 6 and 12 and 60. And they were real familiar with dividing by 60 and multiplying by 60 in huge, large numbers. In fact, they had trigonometry that they figured out. I've got a video on it where this guy's figured it all out. Finally, it takes somebody to dig into the mathematical equations that they've got and realize that they're doing this mathematical equation and they're depicting stars and their trajectories across the sky. So they're giving declamation of it. It's like plain trigonometry, but what they're doing here is basing it on 6, like hexadecimals. That's weird. Our computers work off hexadecimal. In fact, whatever we do into it, we transpose it into hexadecimal. The only thing that dissects it more than that is binary, and of course that's ones and zeros in series. But that makes up, as you do a series, into a conglomeration that becomes a number or a letter. How much of this 12 thing, though, goes around for night and day and all these things and good and bad and everything? Well, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 brothers of Joseph, 12 judges of Israel, 12 great patriarchs, 12 Old Testament prophets, 12 kings of Israel. It keeps going on. We still have 12 Horus in our day. Ours. Whoops, that's where that word comes from. Jesus was in the temple at age 12. It really gets overwhelming, and you can find it still written in the Bible here. But another form of it, Jesus tells you that he's going to be with you to the very end of an age. Now, this got ruined in a couple of Bibles way back when and changed. And instead of the original idea of aeon or era, which would end up transposing to a zodiacal age, which so then Jesus, who was actually the lamb sacrificed at the end of Aries, and again, Sumerian's Aries is a man. It's also a cherubim. It's a few other things. You can get weird stories going just around and around, and you transpose the second and third meanings of Sumerian portions of words, and here you go. It's amazing people have found this over this time, but again, it takes somebody, specialized in 3 or 4 different things at one time and looking for it. Crazy. But he keeps telling them over and over again, either in this age or the age to come. What is he talking about? That word right there is zodiacal. In fact, if you look in the Septuagint of the thing, that's the same word as a zodiacal age. It's not the age that means a generation of people, like they even talked about in the Bible just before this, where Jesus was going to come back when this generation is. Verily I say to you, that people in this generation shall not pass. People keep looking at it like, oh, he's talking to us now in this generation. How many generations since this supposedly happened have people gone through believing that it must be this generation that's all this is going to happen? If an asteroid hits the Earth, are we going to turn around and go, oh, see? The harvest is in the end of the age, and because they keep using this end and so on, that got transposed from end of an age to the end of the world. And then, lo and behold, it got turned into the idea that Armageddon was going to be everybody. Again, that flood story was just a Sumerian localized flood. We'll talk about that coming up. But in that concept, this ending of these people is talking about the people that it's supposed to be talking about in the Bible. This is the ancient Canaanites and stuff. And it already happened exactly a generation, 40 years to the day, supposedly. And, oh, well, it's magic. Look. No, well, they wrote it way after, and they gave it the dates. Come on. Breathe in and out. Through your nose, not your mouth. Sorry. Sign of your coming and the end of the age. Age, of this age, of that age, at age. Well, you see, there was ages that go through. In fact, people have been doing this from the Wayback Machine, way back at Leo. A lot of people believe the original Sphinx was a lion at Leo. But we have Taurus, and everybody worshiping bulls, and the Apis bull, and all of these things going on. Then it changed from that to age of Aries. And so that's why Moses is kind of pissed off, because they're all bull worshiping before, but then all of a sudden, here we go, and it's, you have to sacrifice rams. Some people don't catch that either, but it's the change. And here we go again. Well, you're not worshiping the God correctly, because you're supposed to be sacrificing the animal that's in the zodiac. That's all astrotheological. He went up on a mountain and he talked to God, who talked to him in thunder rumblings. If you look deep into it, Moses was a thunder interpreter. Yeah. He interpreted rumblings and thunder, and it scared everybody and stuff. And of course, you can connect it to a volcano going off and things like that too from the depictions they give you at Mount Sinai. Well, let's continue. Last one there talked about the former age. So we've sat around waiting for the sun to come up at a certain time of the year. And these ancient shepherds who used to watch the stars by night that they talk about made all kinds of pictures in the sky. And, you know, whenever we look at clouds, we get that same idea. Sometimes you see it rock formation, it looks like a big head, all these different things. But in this dot to dot thing, which we're all familiar probably of doing as a kid, that they'd give you books that have dot to dot and you got to figure it out. Some of it might be drawn on for you and help you out and make the ears of the bear, if you will, but pardon me. So these pictures that people looked at in the sky as it spins around, like you're seeing here, as the world spins around, they ended up making stories out of these concepts. And the different ones are the different things that we go through. And this wave that happens ends up being right about 26,800 years long or so, give or take a little bit. And of course, we're still in awe of calculating the exact age that one starts or ends. Like, could it be the end of the constellation? A certain medium between is exactly in the 12, because if it is, there are ones that are pushed up against the sidewall instead of being right in the middle like that there. So there's some ages that are a little bit shorter in time and a little bit longer in time, and it totally adds up. You know, the ancient Sumerian kings list, if you look at it, shows you zodiacal ages and all kinds of things that add up to a time that shows you that they had this astrotheological thing going on for long ago. I mean, you look at the Bible ages and all these people lived for hundreds and hundreds of years and stuff, and they who begot, and still got to 4000 BC, and that's pretty much it. And they give you that who begot idea like they know it, you know, verbatim, who had a kid, all the way back to Ugg, or the first man that wasn't Ugg. Oh, and there wasn't anything before that, of course, which, I mean, come on, people. What's a dinosaur? Don't tell me it's a Jesus horse. And that begot situation goes back 4,000 years. The ancient Sumerians, where they got the concept from, but didn't pull off a thing like I'm older than you, which would have pissed them off. They turned around and said those ages, but the ages of the Sumerians on that king's list add up to 432,000 years. That's an amazing amount of time, but also if you've studied sacred geometry, that's an amazing number. In fact, it's in the Great Pyramid. There are a lot of Sumerian connections to the Egyptians, but let's just say that that sacred geometry number goes along with the sun too, and it goes along with a lot of different things. And that's why when people had this math and they came up with it, and then they started measuring things, even little bitty things to big things to the measurements on our body, they turned around and went, wow, okay, this is God's little plan here. They've got it all figured out. And there's something to that. But we lost all of that and the idea and written in the stars and stuff because people got past the point of thinking that was really true. For they've kind of figured out there's galaxies out there and stuff. And really that concept in theology came about with the Greeks and so on. But after those great people came about and even made steam engines with Hero of Alexandria and stuff, next thing you know, that just choked out all the way through, and the Crusades and the Dark Ages and all the bullshit that happened, and finally they came out of it. In fact, the real thing that snapped everybody out of it was people finding the New World in Americas and went, nope. The amazing thing, though, it was built on Christianity and idea, but due to the backfold and the way that it works, and the concepts behind it, they were able to have enough freedom to really make those other steps, which had already been in Europe, making leaps and bounds after coming out of that, and Newton and people like that. But in reality, you could find somebody who was just about like Newton, although he didn't talk about gravity, but other things in light and situations in the Library of Alexandria. It's one of the many reasons that that place got burnt down, because it showed you that all the stuff they were trying to push on you then was going to be exposed if you got to read this stuff, and they tried to stammer it out of everybody. It's amazing what was kept, like Nag Hammadi scripts, Dead Sea Scrolls, all the tablets we found in Sumer that were buried under a civilization that was on top of another civilization way down in there. And here's a library of Ashurbanipal. So each one of these ages about 2,160 years, really. And that's if we gave them an exact declination. And this is where the sun's coming up each morning in front of which one, whether you go through the age of Taurus here, that ended at 2150 BC, or till about 1 AD was Aries. And there's Jesus right there. And so he's the lamb. And the lamb gets sacrificed for all mankind to make everything cool and forgive our sins and the bullshit that went on in that 2,160 years. And now we're going to go into this next level, and we're taking ourselves to new heights all the way through all of this. And I say there was a big stumble that went on here after this, because this got shoved on everybody and tried to change everything and say everything else was bullshit, but this was true, but this was based on the bullshit. So how can you have it like that? Well, it's more than that. And it's a really amazing book. I have to give credit for it. But so Jesus comes on, and he ends up giving loaves of bread and feeds everybody with 2 fish. And people are like, what? And they go, right when it starts out, da-da-da. Well, right when it starts this age, you got 2 fish. Pisces. And after that comes Aquarius. In fact, when I was a kid, there was a real popular song, is The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius. Now we're back at a full circle fold, it looks like here, in the age of Aquarius. And Aquarius also is Yahweh. Now I've shown that in a vid. Look it up in my stuff in the Astrotheology. I call it Written in the Stars, in a series that I just did recently. And I'm probably going to add a couple of on to just more like additions, but I didn't feel like they were real big fireworks, so I'll probably try to throw them together in one with a little something else to make another connection, and then I'll have another vid to go on after that and continue. But this whole idea of astrotheology wrapped into this story, it also has tales that the Greeks have off of it, and the reason they do is some of their stuff's built off the same thing. In fact, I showed you here where the Argo is in some of the tales of the Greeks, but they have the Greek hand in the Bible. Well, does it just look like that because they were doing the same kind of thing? No, a lot of people have said that, no, you can tell. This wasn't made by little farmer people and stuff, and the Septuagint was 70 or 72 people that got together and made this all happen. They even talk about it and stuff, and they just whiff that off like, oh, well, we're just trying to put it together and get it from ancient Hebrew and do this, that, and the other. Well, that was actually from ancient Phoenician type writing too. And hey, man, how far does this thing go back? Well, that kind of shoots them in the foot too. It doesn't go back that long. In fact, the earliest parts of it come out of that from the Babylonian captivity, and then other things are written much, much more recent and put into it. And then the New Testament, it has the same problem. Let's continue. So in this tale, there's Moses, and Moses is up on a mountain. By the way, they're not showing you here the way that he looked. For if you read the Bible, it says that when he came down, he had horns. Now, people have tried to make a lot off of this, and I, of course, made jokes, but I didn't show the next layer of the onion in a couple of videos. I was just trying to show you that it says it. and they turned it around where he had beams of light. That's what it means. No, well, never when they talk about them being on an animal do they say those animals have beams of light coming out of their heads. That's horns. And the keratin, like we made keratin out of this word in the first place. And what's that? That's the fingernail stuff, or the stuff that horns are made out of. Come on now. That's why they blew the horns. That's why they still use a ram horn to this day, is hearkening back to a thing that happened in one little time, supposedly. Like that was the golden age or something like that. Now we're so far back that we're going to space and doing everything, and people are still stuck on this. There was a guy on a mountain one time talked to a guy that made thunder rumbles, and he came down with horns on his head. If I was to tell you that nowadays, you'd go, okay, well, that's Satan, so we don't want to talk to that guy. Well, he's the one that gave the 10 Commandments. Oddly, there's a few people that have went up to a mountain and end up getting wisdom or laws, though, from all of these pagans, which just means agriculturists, which sometimes meant agriculturist finally. And it's funny whenever all these people finally become agriculturists due to the spread of it because of one people that helped spread agriculture to everywhere, like Johnny Appleseed. That's when they attain stories that are variations on a theme, which I've shown over and over again, and a lot of people, experts in the field, make connections in the Mahabharata and stuff to other things and so on all the time. Wouldn't it be neat if we could just put it all together at one time and then download it enough to where you'd hear it all at once and you'd be like, okay. You wouldn't have to waste thousands of hours to hear every little picky little moment of it. That's why I try to pick a little more of the fireworks and connections. It's the way it works a little more. But Moses came down with horns on his head. You can actually Google image or DuckDuckGo image Moses with horns, and you'll end up seeing all these statues from coming up in a modern time and medieval ages all the way down where they knew Moses had horns, and it wasn't bad because the devil ended up being created in there and twisted into the idea that he had horns all of a sudden in these people, and they were almost making fun of themselves. I mean, the Sumerians had horns on their hats for a reason too, that I show you in that other depiction set that I did recently on astrotheology. But let's just continue. By the way, on his tablets that are shown here, he doesn't have enough words written to do anything really. In fact, he's really not got, I don't know what that would say in Hebrew, but it doesn't add up to much. The one with Charlton Heston, though, it actually starts out with something that's basically right, but also was kind of telling, but I did another video on that. Let's continue. So people were worshiping bulls and everything, and it pissed him off, and he broke the tablets. Now, by the way, it depends on when you look at this, that the first tablets were supposed to be written by the finger of God. The second one was written by Moses. Look, he was up there long enough to do these tablets both times. And he was thunder interpreting the whole time, and he couldn't look at God, so that's the sun situation. And if you look at where he came, God comes up, he comes up in a dark cloud mist, and da-da-da, and then the guy comes out with horns, and you're like, okay, that was probably the wrong one, where, you know, it's kind of funny. But also, if you look in the Bible and you look at it correctly, you can see where they worship Baal, and then they go back to worshiping another god, but then you've come to find out, well, that's hell. That's this, that's that. Oh, wait, they are the Canaanites. They just changed their name in the picture on the front of the storefront here after they went through the Babylonian captivity, learned how they made up all their astrotheology and did something here. And then the Greeks put their hands in it and twisted it into what they have. In Deuteronomy, or in the Bible itself, it tells you they found Deuteronomy. Somebody showed up, some Greek guy showed up, and he's like, I found this. I don't know how to read it or anything, but here, maybe you could read it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's the whole Genesis story and Moses and all this and everything. And the other guy was probably walking off going, One variation on how that happened. So what did Moses think the answer was for everything whenever all that happened? Oh, he had just everybody try to kill each other. You know, in the Bible, the God's so forgiving and stuff, they turned around and told Moses he wasn't going to make it in the promised land, and all that generation would have to die off, which was wandering 40 years in the desert. There's a connection to 40. Well, you see that 40 is also Ingi's special sacred number, and there's another way you can make a connection to where they use that symbology and numerology off of stuff that they learned from over here in Babylonian captivity. 40 years is a generation of olive tree, so on. Jesus says he's going to be with you till a generation. Well, that has 40 years, so that was what, 33 AD. Well, 40 years later. Well, hold on. It happened when at Passover. Yeah. So when did that happen at the end of everything? It was Passover at the end of 73 AD, exactly 40 years to the day, just like Jesus said it was going to be. And some of them still might be alive. It's strange that people still sit around today and think that they're talking about this generation, but I guess there's a sign of hope and faith that they may be talking about them, because it sure didn't happen whenever they said it did. Listen, again, just like the flood happened as a local thing to Sumer, and to them that was Armageddon and the end of the world that happened with a big flood that we all talk about. Bang, over here you've got the idea that everything's going to end and all this shit's going to happen. Well, that already happened to those people. They put a wall around it and then razed the city to the ground and killed everybody off that didn't sneak their way out. That's documented. Josephus puts it that way, and you go, oh, is that what they meant with all this colorful poetry stuff in the Bible? Yeah, if you can see past the poetry, put that together, it's wicked where it's got connections to all kinds of things and other tales from other places that are really, what if you found out, you would call them pagan, wouldn't you? Man, it's taking me a while to get through this thing here. Let's just try to get on with it a little bit. So after that, they do the rams and so on, but then again, that's Taurus and leading into Aries right there, and that went for 2150 years, and they still blow the ram horn to this day and stuff, and it's all sacred and everything, because again, they're looking back at this one moment in time like it's whenever everything happened and stuff. Well, what's this a story about? Well, it's part of it's astrotheological, part of it's this, part of it's true, and what these people were trying to believe in, and how he had one people kill another one where they only had real similar beliefs, and they were the same Caucasians and stuff, and lo and behold, they don't speak the same language quite as you anymore. At the Tower of Babel, and something happened bad, and I'm going to kill you. You know, it's like, what the hell's going on here? Well, somebody made up a bunch of stories and everything, and next thing you know, you have Hatfields and McCoys, all kinds of situations going on. If you follow me, let's continue. Moses pissed now. So all this was really going from the age of the bulls to the age of the rams, and by the way, that's Mithra, and here you have Mithra stabbing that same bull, and it's not something that actually was uncommon. That seemed to be the symbol in every Mithraeum. And hey, here's one thing for you. Most of, let's see, I won't say most of, quite a few of the early churches that are all founded across Europe were actually sitting on a foundation that shows a Mithraeum down below it. In fact, the Vatican has one themselves, along with other ones that still show symbols of Saturn and all these different things that were going on, from them still believing, leading into a modern day. And that's where they keep everything at, hidden in the secret vaults under. It's become that. It's part of the secret. People look past that and go, what's in that box? And go, look at this place. So now we're in the age of Pisces, and we're coming into Aquarius, as I said, and Aquarius is dawning at a cusp someplace, somehow. But of course, you have this idea where we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Where does this come from? Well, there's a constellation made of 5 stars right here. There's 5 loaves of bread. Or we can look at that a different way. In fact, what's cool about this book, as I said, you can look at this 3 different ways, and all of them will kind of fit and don't matter. But what's it all about? Well, 2 fish. This is Pisces. Come on now. They got stained glass everywhere that show it and stuff, and this is what they're talking about. He's in the age of Pisces. One of the first things he does is go out and walk on the water, and then he finds a bunch of fish. Well, in that astrotheological one that I showed with the Sumerian ones, it shows him actually walking on water. There's the boat, there's the thing. Up over here, some fish. Looks like there's a bunch of fish around here. Come to the right side of the boat. Where's that? To the right side of the picture. It's to the right of the boat. There they are. Come with me, I'll make you fishers of men. You see, there's a weird tale too, and there's a bit of confusion even in myself right now on it, but Jesus goes back after doing that and he makes fishers of men out of and everything. What? So we're gonna indoctrinate everybody into this new thing we're making up. It's only gonna take 12 sacred number of people. And we're going to make something else. We're going to make up a new story all about it and everything, right? That's what it kind of says. But he's Pisces, coming out of the age of Aries, which was a man. So here's that man. Here he is walking on water. Here he is. There's the fish. Here's so and so. It just all works together. People see this on the bumpers of cars all the time now. And like, what? I kind of like the Darwin one where it eats it, because that shows it's like, well, no, first of all, you're wrong about the 4,000 years and so on, but symbols of the ancient church really had to do with this same concept. It was really well known, and fish symbology here that go on, and Pisces itself in the bottom right hand corner. This was all connected in an idea. There are mosaics that are all over the place that show this situation too. So it's like he's connected to that. Why would the sun be connected to that? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. Why? Because we're in that age right now, but you don't understand, do you? Because that was all taken away. Because if you knew all that, you'd be like, oh, so this is all made up of a thing? And they mean, oh man, I had everybody believe in this crap. They were just throwing money at it like crazy, and I had everybody under control over this thing. A thing that never happened, or what? I mean, admittedly, hey, it's a great idea. It's a great book, seriously. And a lot of what it says are true. In fact, if you understand the times it was in, that was pretty revolutionary and fantastic and wow. But in a modern day, we can look back at that and go, no, we can one-up that real easily. In fact, the training wheels came off a long time ago, way before this. Now, a connection to Aquarius, where I showed you Jesus and the other pictures that I was showing. I wish I could just go to the other picture right now and show it to you, but that beckons you to actually watch the other ones about the Written in the Stars series. For after you take Jesus and you go up symbolically the Tigris and Euphrates and take that bend there, you end up coming over to Aquarius and there's a man with a pitcher. Well, even in Luke 22:10, it actually tells you, behold, when ye enter into the city, there shall be a man meet you bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And where's the house? Well, it's the square of Pegasus, I believe, right there. And so they're going to come up and meet Aquarius, and he's going to take him into the house that's right there. See, the funny thing about that is, how could you believe that whenever you walk into a city, you're going to run into a guy with a pitcher, and you're just going to tell him, hey, we want to use your house, and he's going to give you the hand, you know. Jesus already, he knows all this stuff, right? He just knows. Well, why does he know? Because it's written in the stars. What? We're right there. That's Aquarius. Well, they just got to asking him whenever all this is going to end and all this crap happens and stuff. And in fact, this is setting up for the Last Supper, where they pull off a cannibalistic ritual that goes with somebody else and some pagan stuff, where the bread is somebody's body and the wine is the blood of life, and trying to look at it like that. That's crazy. Well, it is now when you look back at it. When you look at the time, you go, oh, it's just symbolical stuff and everything. But some people took it too far, let's just say. So there's a pitcher of water. That's Aquarius. That's the way it's described. It's just that simple. So many people have found, they go, well, it's got this and this and this in it. No, it has a lot more than this and this and this in it. It has hundreds of examples of astrotheology. And a lot of it is about Aquarius, because that's the God Yahweh. And that's Jesus again. And if you roll it around, you tell another story, it's this, it's that. Here it is again. There's that donkey. It's amazing. Look at the other parts of the series. I beckon to you. Some of them are fairly short. They're not 45-minute intervals on each one. I just wanted to show you one thing. I kind of thought that would be neat if I showed you one thing and then all of a sudden I show you another video and go, remember this? Well, here's this. Oh, here's this. Well, here's God. Oh, here's the book of life. Here's somebody beating somebody with 1,000 people with the jawbone of an ass. Here's this. Here's that. And it just kind of envelope and keep, get the concept of it without me having to show you all 27 things that one guy came up with in his book, but enough to be like, wow, really? Yeah. You want to know more about it? Hey, get his book. I'm not, told him to sell it by it by any means, but here we go. So now we go into the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and they say it's going to happen in 2160 AD. Well, then we're totally in it. We've already hit the cusp of the age of Aquarius. Somebody figured out a long time ago that using the cusp margin that they use in other zodiacs before, that if we use that now, that would put it right about in the 1950s. And if you look, the world changed. Well, of course, it was after World War II and the freedom that was given after that and the way it changed. But so many things changed. But hey, was this that age? And the Jesus thing, and then all of a sudden we're in the next one, because next thing you know, we're turned into spaceman in the modern computer age, and it's turned into quite the thing, isn't it? And it's pretty impressive. Whereas they keep telling you, at the end of time, all these 4-horse chariots are going to come down, and pestilence and all these things happen, but the 4-horse chariots are what the Romans used against us, and then the guy that rides in on the white horse was Titus. He even got his own little Bible book for him named after himself. But that's for a different video. So, astrotheology, let's see if we'll get back into this concept here. For it's written all over the Bible, and some of the tales of things happening, even the idea of the devil, believe it or not, is in there, but it's also taking a twist on somebody like me. Well, actually my namesake of Neptune, for he's the guy with a pitchfork and this, that, and the other, and the Canaanites, and the guy that used to be their major god over their area, sure as hell of the Mediterranean people that were controlling it all, and then lo and behold, it all fell apart. And they got taken in Babylonian captivity and came back with a totally different name, and then they took the guy that they were going against with this new story, and he became the adversary, and really that's all that it means, is the adversary. They even call the king of Tyre out and call him a Satan at one time, and they go, oh, so he's the devil. No, no. And back then, it's a totally different thing. It was just adversary. There wasn't any devil. Once you gave an all-powerful boom, then now all of a sudden they give you this devil guy. Well, there's only one God. Apparently there's two. There's one of good and one of evil, and all this stuff you're talking about, you're not going to get away with it. Elohim means plural. Well, we've got all these angels. Yeah, that's just like all these other guys had 12 other gods and all this stuff that pull off the same things in the same way. Well, not all of the things. Well, you've got saints that do the same thing. Well, look at the pantheon that's woven in right there. But, well, some are more powerful than others, and yeah, the gods work that way too. Zeus, the power of the 12, the power of the majors that come off of those, and then lesser things, and nymphs, and water deities and things like that. Come on now, breathe in and out through your nose. I'll be with you even to the end of the world is what they turned this into, and lo and behold, now we're talking about something where the end of the world happens, where it was never supposed to have happened like that. The end of the world happened to those people. That is no longer in effect. The ancient Sumerians, when that flood came, it ended their little world, and then they were no longer in effect. Transposed out of there and rolled around the Fertile Crescent, and lo and behold, that's how some of that stuff got over there in the first place. But then the Elamites took over and so on. We're going to go to part 3 now. It's in your top left-hand corner. I'll see you there. Let me know what you think down below. Peace.